Hi, students. How are you doing? Welcome to Naya Sim. Thank you so much for the support. Hope you all are doing great. So I came across this discourse where, Black people were talking about Nikki Giovanni, and you all knew Nikki Giovanni. Was married to a white woman before her death, right? And something that I am going to say is that nobody should I understand that she's late and I really do not want people snooping or talking bad about a dead person and all that. She was really pro-black, not until her death, and she was not just only an activist. She was a great writer, and not just only being a great writer, most popular, one of the most popular black African American poet and all that. And some people are like, why is it that some pro-black activists ended up with white partners and all that? Sincerely speaking, I think they were not even because of Nikki Giovanni. I also have been wanting to ask this because, on TikTok, Black community, you are also going to see a lot of them that are really, really pro-Black. Like you see them, they are really very active and standing on business on that. But they are married to the other partners. I don't know how they do it, but yeah, but I am not judging anybody because I have always been, you all already know my channel has always been like, wherever you find love, as long as it's healthy love, it's beautiful. But I have been preaching black love all the time. Let's get into this.
Why is it that a lot of these black scholars, the folks who fight for black liberation, usually always end up with a colonizer? Like, they don't end up with somebody who is both non-black and non-white. They go straight into the colonizer lust of it all. Why is that? Whether it's Angela Davis, Bayard Rustin, James Baldwin, Nikki Giovanni, and many more.
So, this is actually an inaccurate representation of the complex lifelong dating history that a lot of these scholars have had. And really, what it shows us is their histories have a lot of colonization to them that even we buy into. Hi, my name is Evan. I'm a bioethicist and I specialize in misinformation, disinformation, and conspiracy theories as a threat to public health. So, a big issue for Black scholars and Black historical figures, especially in the United States, is going to be the reimagining of their history, particularly who they sided with, who they were allied with, who they exchanged love, romantic relationships, and friendships with. There are characters in their history that will be pulled forward more, and there are characters in their history that will be pushed to the back more. But when these folks get relegated to history, especially posthumously, they're often, and this is why one would say that history is also not apolitical, right? Just like science isn't apolitical. History, especially at the academic levels, especially those who are writing the books, those who are teaching the courses, are mainly or predominantly controlled by one dominant group, and that is white specific, often straight people. Even in more like radical historic or academic spaces like feminist studies or queer studies, those spaces are highly Caucasian. And that means that they are the ones who are taking a lot of discretionary decision making around reimagining or around presenting the history of even other scholars like Black theorists, Black feminists, Black queer theorists, Black academics. And one of these things that gets deeply affected is things like their personal lives, like autobiographical information. So, for example, this is Angela Davis's partner. This Black woman, this Black academic at UC Santa Cruz, is currently Angela Davis's partner. And I think they've been partnered for like over a decade. The scandal between them is the fact that she is much younger. Angela Davis is in her 70s and she's in her 50s. So there's like a 20-year age gap. It started pretty early on. I think it started when she was either in her like late 30s or like her early 40s, something to that nature. Angela Davis's partner is a Black professor. It's a Black academic. And this is Audre Lorde's partner right before she passed. They worked together to try and rebuild St. Croix when they moved there to the U.S. Virgin Islands after her second diagnosis or the reemergence of Audre Lorde's cancer. This is the person that she passed away with as her partner. Yes, Audre Lorde did have a long-term partnership with Francis Clayton, who was a white psychologist, an academic. I think they were together for like 20 years, roughly. But this is the person that she chose to be with once that relationship ended in, I think, the 1970s, late 1970s. She was with this person until her death in the 1990s. So they have just as much romantic history. And this is her long-term partner who she chose towards the end or at the end of her life. Now, I'm not sitting here by any stretch of the imagination and saying that these people don't date white people and don't pick white partners for the extent of their lives. James Baldwin was historically known to have been sort of unpartnered most of his life, except when he was really young. He dated a very young man named Lucien, who was like a French white guy. Like that is historic fact. Again, that existed, that happened. Bayard Rustin, same thing, had a long-term partner that was another white gay man. But what I will say is that the people who have a lot of control over telling us the story of these people, especially those who have passed in Black history and as Black academics and artists, it really behooves their political stance in teaching history and their existence in teaching these things to make it seem like there was more intense relations or less tensions historically than is actually true. So if I'm a white professor and I teach feminist theory, then in teaching feminist theory, a huge character in feminist theory is going to be Audre Lorde. You cannot teach a feminist theory without talking about Audre Lorde's writings and Audre Lorde's work as a professor, as an academic, as an artist. So it serves my purpose more, or it's of more interest to me to focus on her most active years doing work inside of mainland US. And inside of that, talking the most about her white partner of 20 years, then talking about actually her more prolific or as prolific work that she did as she was dying of cancer in the US Virgin Islands. Her and her partner at the time, Gloria Joseph, who I just showed you, worked almost tirelessly to try and rebuild St. Croix after Hurricane Hugo in the 1990s. That was like the last thing that she spent an immense amount of her activist and advocacy labor working on, right? But St. Croix is primarily, in US Virgin Islands, is primarily just like a Black space, Black community off mainland US. And it is towards the end of her life, which most feminist theory classes don't really talk about. They talk about a central component, like when she writes things like Sister Outsider. An additional point here, too, is to think about the worlds with which Black academics and Black artists of great significance, especially those who experienced success in their lifetimes, were existing in. Those communities did not have or had a huge dearth of people that looked like them. Every day, the work that they were doing and the echelons and communities and spaces that they were doing it lacked other Black people. And they talk about that ad nauseum. They talk about that extensively in their work, about the isolation that comes, especially those, I mean, James Baldwin talks about all this all the time, about how he's sort of like seen in two dimensions. He's seen as a Black man, but he's also seen as this intellectual, but in these intellectual spaces, he is a lone Black man. That is complex. And so in an era that predates things like Hinge, where you can find somebody, you know, based on the interests you might actually have or be more drawn to, using a series of algorithms on a app, that's easier. But when most of how you're dating or how you're meeting people, how you're bonding with people, how you're connecting with people is through things like your work or through things like your geographic location and where you're living and who you have access to, for people who are moving constantly, giving speaking engagements, all of that, consider who they're constantly in conversation with and who they're constantly socializing with. And more, especially in academic spaces at that time, it was going to be white people. And for queer Black women, it was the closest you could get in those academic spaces was often going to be, at minimum, queer white women, because most of academia was white straight men, particularly when we're talking about someone like Angela Davis and we're talking about someone like Audre Lorde. It's not for lack of interest, it's for lack of access. And so basically what you would be asking people to do is be attracted to no one until someone who was the same racial background or makeup as them or some form of non-white to appear in their social space before they're allowed to date. And just ultimately, that's not how people work. The last thing I'll say, which is the least valuable in my mind, is that at the time that many of these people are dating white people, it in of itself is a revolutionary act because there was plenty of miscegenation laws on the books at the time. For those of us who are millennials, who are biracial millennials, our parents very well may have been in violation of miscegenation laws. It was that recent. Loving v. Virginia was 1968. And my parents, for example, as a biracial person, got married in 1983. That is not even 20 years later. And that's not even when every one of those laws finally ran its course and was dismantled. Along with the fact that in that time period, there was a fixation on racial theory that said that people had to do things like not just desegregate, but actually integrate. And part of a radical act of integration was interracial dating, which for us living in more modern times, even me, again, as a biracial person, I don't find to be that prolific. But maybe I don't find it to be that prolific because I didn't do it in that time period. We can't just analyze things from the perspective and the point that we're at. We must analyze things from where they were and began, and also the immense amount of complexity that comes with being human and falling in love and socializing. And what we do in our personal lives is not always guided entirely by our political or full political spectrum and stance.
I have really held off engaging in this whole interracial relationship conversation after Nikki Giovanni passed away and everybody found out yesterday that she had a white wife, specifically because I don't feel like I'm a voice of authority in this discussion, nor do I want to be, quite frankly. I have a strong aversion to judging and telling other Black people what to do with their bodies, their hearts, or okay, it gives me very much slave master vibes, like y'all might as well just call me Thomas Jefferson and shit, okay? But what I can say is that I don't promote those relationships. Out of experience, I can only give notes and suggestions for other Black people to autonomously make the decision on what it is that they would elect to do, but there cannot be any judgment, because I understand that as a conscious Black person, if you are with a white person in that type of relationship, like Nikki Giovanni and some of the other Black activists, if you are a conscious Black person in that type of relationship, you are doing an intense amount of labor, emotionally and psychologically, that you would not have to do if you were not in that relationship, okay? What I can say is that if you're with a white person that is also in that conscious journey to reach consciousness as far as their consciousness can possibly take them as a white person, okay, you will still be doing an intense amount of labor that you would not be doing if you were not in that type of relationship. You will most definitely do that. And if that white person understands equity, it'd be a little less labor, but it'd still be extremely laborious texting for you to be in that. And as a politically aware person, there will be days that you will have to go politically unconscious to make it in that relationship, to make it through a day, okay? You understand that? All right. So what I can say in terms of pro-Blackness and you not being pro-Black if you're with a white person, all that shit and all that, to me, quite frankly, within the pro-Black movement, nothing about it is pro-Black. In my opinion, it is very much anti-Black. The only thing that is not white in that is the person, because all the other white structures of white supremacy are still in there. There's still patriarchy, misogyny, colorism still there, transphobia, homophobia is still there, the religious indoctrination, the white religious indoctrination is still there, the white capitalism is still there, and so is the white classism still there. So everything is still white. Everything is still anti-Black except the white person. Okay, so to me, it don't make no sense to say pro-Black is delusion to me. It's almost as delusional to me, actually, to think that this conversation has anything to do with love when we're talking about this. Because to me, the way y'all describe love, quite frankly, is delusional. It gives me very much Disney Delulu, and it's hard for me to grasp delusions like that and understanding what it is, what y'all mean by love. I don't understand what y'all be talking about. What I can speak on is partnership. In partnership of interracial relationship, interracial romantic partnerships. I can understand it in that manner, okay? That makes sense to me. And in a partnership, you understand that there's labor that has to be done. And if you are consciously aware of our race demographics in this society, you must understand that a Black person in that type of situation, in that type of relationship, is doing an intense amount of labor or going unconscious, politically unconscious from day to day. Or on the flip side of that, what actually a lot of them actually do, I'll be honest with you, is take notes to give to the Black community about these white motherfuckers that otherwise we would not even fucking know if they were not pillow talking. Okay? That is all I can honestly say with integrity. It's sticking the principle of not being a slave master, and telling other Black people what to do with their bodies and things like that. I can only speak truth to their situation and tell you that those interracial relationships, there's a lot of labor being done on the end of the Black person that's involved in that. And you as a Black person need to know, in all honesty, from those that have the experience, that is a lot of work that you will be doing psychologically and emotionally if you are conscious and aware politically of your Blackness. And like I said, in terms of all the Black activists that have given us in our community so much, number one, I don't pedestalize nor do I idolize any of them. What I can do is appreciate the seeds that they've given to me that I can water to grow to evolve into another level of consciousness in terms of who they're with or partnered with or sleeping with. There is no judgment, and I pass judgment on them. Actually, the only thing I do have is admiration, appreciation, gratitude, and empathy. Empathy and knowing exactly what it is they were actually going through in those type of relationships that they electively chose as free Negroes to do. That is all I can say out of intellectual integrity and honesty, and also some emotional intelligence. Because what I really want to say to y'all out of experience is stay the fuck away from these white motherfuckers. Stay the fuck away from these white motherfuckers. Okay, but I can't say that to y'all. Y'all some free ass Negroes. Okay, have a nice day.
It's crazy how every single one of them ended up with a white person on their arm. Not even just a non-black person, but a white person specifically. I find it fascinating. And if you don't know, that is the late, great Nikki Giovanni. May she rest in peace. And I've noticed that too, a lot of the black activists from back in the day, the voice of the black people ended up with a white partner. And I could never understand that. Not saying that they should have hated, in a sense, white people, because hating someone requires too much energy. But if you are fighting for black people's rights, but you turn around and sleep with a white person, doesn't that kind of fuck everything up? It contradicts what the black activist is talking about. Is it because the black activists have seen the struggle and went through the struggle, and as they got older, they realized it is better for them to be with a white person so they can continue to walk through a lot of doors and gain a lot of opportunities to speak to black people? If so, that's still not a good way to go about things. Doesn't that kind of fuck everything up?
I get why it can look like that, and a lot of the time I get why it can be that way based on what we know about other figures, but I'm inclined to give people a little bit of grace, simply because it's like I don't view it as that much of an internal contradiction, in the same way that there are heterosexual women who are out and out avowed feminists committed to the cause, advocates, activists who are also married to men, but the key ingredient there is that the man that they're married to is an avowed traitor of patriarchy. Do you get? A man that is there doing the work, is there arm in arm, side by side, standing up as a traitor to patriarchy and saying, man, get rid of this thing. This thing is also subjugating me, just in a way that's less obvious, and I cannot be free so long as this thing is allowed to subjugate others, including myself. Do you get? And so that's my hope. Anyway, that is my hope. Because like I say, I don't know the particulars of Nikki Giovanni's relationship. I don't know her internal life. I don't know about, do you know what I mean? So that's just my hope. I can only speak as an outsider looking in. Do you know what I mean? And I'm thinking that I hope, at least it's the same with black activists and advocates and everything else. If you see them with their non-black partners, and I'm assuming it's because that partner has made themselves an avowed traitor to the forces of anti-blackness that have been advantaging them, and they're an avowed traitor to that thing and saying, listen, it's designed to advantage me in this one regard, and they have actively rejected it and said that they will not play along with it. I hope. Your mileage may vary, agree, disagree, I don't know, but that's how I interpret it, But we also cannot discount the importance of being able to step away from things and potentially have someone or something in your life that might offer respite from the continued energy that you put in of having to do the work, I think, because I don't think it's so much because it might be a contradiction, and they might fully embrace that contradiction in the sense of because doing this kind of work, even just the process of staying educated about a lot of these things, can really grind you down and wear you down. And it might be, some people might just find it a lot easier to have a partner who isn't necessarily in it or in the thick of it with them, simply because it is nice to not always have to dwell on it. it is nice. I mean, to completely divorce it from activism and advocacy for a minute, I'm just going to talk about myself and my own profession. Me, I'm an actor. And my first serious relationship was with a non-actor. And honestly, I liked that dynamic. It was nice because it was nice being with somebody who wasn't in the industry, because it was nice to not have my every waking moment subsumed by what I was doing, if that makes sense. Like, it was nice to be able to just like be with somebody and talk about like a bunch of other things that were not related to like my work. And I think he felt the same, in the sense of like, it's nice that you're not a computational biologist as well, because, you know, it's nice to just take a break and talk about something that's not work. Like, so never underestimate the power of that. That is also a very powerful motivator when people are seeking partners. You know, that's also a very powerful factor when people are now looking for who they will partner and build homes with and build relationships with, if that makes sense. You know, just some of my thoughts on the issue.
This is all I got from this video, and I am going to say this. You know, I did not know a lot about Nikki Giovanni, not until she passed, and then I started checking out her, like, you know, her, and I found out that she was really an icon. She impacted lives. She did so many things, activism, and she's also a poet, a writer, and so many things, you know. So I think she, like, you know, as a Black woman, she really did it. And also an educator, not just only active, she's also an educator and the world best known African American poet, you know. Okay, you know, I knew her, but I didn't know a lot about her, right? So when she passed, it seems like people didn't know she was with a white woman, right? And you all already know that I am always the one pushing for wherever you find love is beautiful, right? And as long as it's a healthy love, in as much as I preach Black healthy love, I mean, Black love, that it's something that I know that I have been preaching from the onset, but I am also not against people that found love somewhere else, right? So we humans, and I don't judge people. But there is something I have also noticed, because when we talk about the left, we also talk about the right, right? I have also noticed that most pro um, activists or something, or those people, not just because of her. I mean, when you come on TikTok, I have majority of, not really, let me not use majority, but I would say most people that are super pro Black, that, like, you know, talk more on Black issues and all that, are actually dating white women, or the white women dating or are married to white men. And at some point I was like, what is going on? And then another part is that some of them are just going to be very pro, you know, and then, you know, married at this, and before you know, excuse me, before you know what's going on, there might be a divorce, because I have also seen some of them divorced, and they also did not stop being the pro Black that they have always been. That also tells a lot. You know, sometimes okay, I don't want to like go into trying to talk about relationship, because man, people already know what they want or what it's good for them. I cannot come and tell you this is good for you and this is not good for you, right? So all I can say is that I am still, there is one that happened that you all actually know him. It's consciously, right? I really do love and respect consciously. I love how smart, no, I don't want to use smart, how intelligent. He is very, very intelligent. Consciously is very, very intelligent. And I love his content, right? I have known like some years back that he is married, because there was a time that actually came up and he said that he married his high school sweetheart, right? And then, I mean, and they've been married for like 17, I mean, they've been together for like 17 years or something like that. They have children. So I don't know how, I think it's something that happened when they were really very young, right? So I don't know how old he is, but I feel like consciously he's not even more than 30 or 30, let's say 35 years, or maybe not even up to 35 years, right? And so when that came, people actually came for him and he said that, I mean, like, even that he didn't choose, I don't know how, like, relationship happened. Excuse me, what am I yawning? Relationship happened, and that they found themselves together, and that doesn't also stop him from being what he has always been. He has always been standing on ground, like, business for Black people and the rest of it, which I also support. And as of last week, he also posted the wife and on her birthday. Oh my God, I was expecting that. And I went to the comment section. People were like, oh, I never knew. And you all are always like, this active when it comes to. No, I am going to say this. Sometimes being married to this does not also mean that you are going to stop the work, especially for Black men and Black women that are in interracial marriage. But I am going to. Why am I yawning? I am good. I'm not hungry. I'm not tired. Why am I yawning? Okay, nature. So I personally feel like, it happened, it happened. But man, I love us. I love us. I love Black men and Black women together. I want to see more Black men and Black women together. But still, if you found love and it's a healthy love, and as long as the person you are with is not already deceased, like, I know what I am saying. I just don't know how to go about this so that nobody find it offensive or something. But yeah, where you find love is okay. It's beautiful. But for anybody wanting to like talk down on Nikki Giovanni because she got married, no, please don't do that. She's late. And she went through a lot before she died, cancer and all that. So let's not go into there. I mean, she found love, and I guess she was happy until the last day. So, and she did not just, I mean, she was just also someone that was all out for Black people. She didn't marry the person and like went backsliding because she got married to a white person. She married a white person and she also became very active in her work. So I don't know, but please let me know what you all think in the comment section, please. And I'll see you all in my next video. Bye for now.